Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast.
Welcome to the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. My name is Tom Ricks, and I want to talk a little bit about the MAGABomber. This van, the one with all the stickers on it, is someone that people in Florida may have seen, but I think that I need to explain that this is a little more personal for that than to my wife and I. This guy, I don't recall ever seeing him personally, but that van that he lived out of, it parked literally 500 feet from our apartment. You could see, the parking lot where he parked literally by standing in front of our building. And we used to go to the LA Fitness where he usually showered. There are people all over the internet who are saying that the pictures of the bomb are fake because the postages weren't postmarked, or that the stickers in the van weren't sufficiently sun-dried. You know, there comes a point at which you just have to admit that these people are never going to see reason. I mean, these are people who genuinely believe things like somebody's running a sex trafficking ring out of their pizza basement. And the truly frightening thing is that nothing will shame Donald Trump. I mean, this is a guy who calls for unity and then immediately turns around and attacks CNN as fake news. And the thing is that we have to understand that the news isn't really going to defend itself. You know, people cheer when they call Trump a liar, or they stand up in a White House press briefing and, you know, occasionally ask some challenging questions. But the news media is not what it was in the 1960s. You have to understand that all this is by design. Fox News was created by people like Dick Cheney and Newt Gingrich and the Koch brothers, and of course Rupert Murdoch, who realized that the news media, while it did have a leftward spin, was also going to report the truth. And conservative ideology can only exist in an environment where they lie. And the fact of the matter is that in this culture that we have in the United States, we have neglected our freedom so much that we have this live and let live philosophy where we'll give trophies to people just for participating. And conservatives mock that, but the truth is that we don't live in a meritocracy. We don't live in a situation where if you work hard, you will be rewarded for it. And the thing is that this is pervasive throughout our culture. And a lot of the things that I want to talk about once the election is over are long-term fixes that need to happen. And we need to reform pretty much every element of our culture, from law enforcement to finance to the way the government itself is formed. And there are ways to do this, but none of it will matter if you don't vote in this election. And it is true that they are cheating, but they still have some fear. Not much fear, but they have some. Trump is obviously acting like he no longer believes that there are consequences for his actions. He is openly calling for attacks on the media, literally days after people sent bombs for them. He is openly asking his followers to commit violence, and they cheer Trump on with this, and then will lie with as much fervor as they possibly can. You know, it can be overwhelming. You can say that there's so much stuff going on that it seems impossible to know what to do, but you have to start somewhere. And the key is pick one thing you can do besides vote, whether that's picking up the phone and calling for a politician, or putting signs around your neighborhood, or volunteering at a homeless shelter, or volunteering to build Habitat for Humanity. There's a lot of things you can do. Pick one thing to start. I can tell you that in my case, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be a Lyft driver on Election Day to bring as many people to the polls as I possibly can. And in my mind, I'm going to be thinking about this guy, this Nazi, who parked his van outside an area heavily populated by a Jewish population, who I can't help but think secretly loathed all of the people that were there. And people say that he wasn't a Trump supporter, but he had Trump stickers all over his van. And if it was so big a deal about him not being a Trump supporter, then why did Fox News blur the images on his van when they showed it? Let's think of some of the things that have worked. Nicknames work. Trump uses them all the time, but the left can rarely agree on the right nickname. Some of them we can, some of them we can't. Personally, I think that one area to focus on is North Dakota. Right now, North Dakota has been completely screwed over by China and Trump, and the soybean prices are crashing, but because of Kavanaugh, they're supporting the Republican. So I think that we should call North Dakota the Great Rape State if they don't vote for Heidi Heitkamp. I think that we should have called Alabama the pedophile state if they had voted for the pedophile. I think that anybody in the Democratic Party who advocates for civility needs to be removed from leadership while the Republicans are behaving like this. There is a time to be civil, and then there's a time to be courageous. And you can be one person who is both, but if you don't have the judgment to know when to be courageous and when to be civil, then you need to step aside. And when we have leaders like Chuck Schumer, who are more concerned about the traditions of the Senate than the strength of our democracy, they need to be moved aside. And people that support them need to be moved aside. I want to make a simple argument that I'll be making when I do my longer presentations about how to fix things, but I'm giving you the short version now. Why engage with conservatives at all? You know, there are instances where reaching out to them will change their mind. And, you know, I think that, just like I said when I was trying to tell people how to get people to leave the Mormon church, being their friend, sure, if you absolutely want to be there for them as their friend, that's fine. But don't discuss politics with them. And don't discuss politics with people on the internet who are conservative. They will routinely play this trick where they will ask a question or ask for examples. And I want you to think about the fact that when you give them examples, most of the time they will ignore the evidence you give them and sidestep the argument, and they do a whataboutism or something that is utterly meaningless. By engaging this aberrant behavior, where they basically pick the rules and they pick the news sources and completely ignore what you say, they have been doing this for decades, and it's called framing the debate. You need to stop doing it. You need to stop engaging with these people. You need to admit the fact that fascism is on the march all over the world. It just won in Brazil. It is winning in Georgia. And by Georgia, I mean the country near Russia. It has won in Russia. They literally murdered a reporter who believed in democracy in cold blood, and the guy who did it, there's no repercussions. There's no retaliation. A few minions are getting crushed, but the guy who was responsible for it, not a damn thing is happening. I want you to pay attention to one particular group that has, throughout the last several decades, if not close to 100 to 150 years, been responsible for a lot of this. Wall Street has been rubbing its hands with glee at their opportunities in Brazil to destroy the rainforest, to destroy the fucking planet, so that they can meet their quarterly earnings expectations. These assholes have actually been putting out their own fake news, deliberately shorting Tesla stocks, not because they genuinely believe that Tesla is going to crash, but because they want to manipulate the media market to make things crash. And look, Elon Musk has all kinds of problems, but the fact of the matter is that these warped bastards have been behind pretty much all of climate denial, especially big oil. But the thing is that, it all sounds crazy until we realize now that it's all true. Like all of the conspiracies against the right, climate change denial, war crimes, attempts to promote fascism are true. Whereas all of the conspiracies on the right, lizard people, Pizzagate, Benghazi, all of the shit that just pours out of their mouths, it just dribbles out of their mouths like drool from a blibbering idiot. Pretty much all of it is lies. And then you've got these people in the middle who think that they're special, that they're smart, that, they're better than both sides. Let me tell you something. It takes guts to choose a side. It's easy to be a special snowflake. People on the right invented this term as an insult for people on the left. But you want to know who the real special snowflakes are? Centrists. People who just will choose the center of any situation and ideology no matter what the two things are. So when you have one side that is literally sending pipe bombs to other people, they'll come up with like this one guy who 20 years ago sent things because he might have voted Democrat once. I mean, they will stretch the bounds of credulity to the point of breaking. And the time has come for you to stop doing that. The time has come for us to stop taking centrists seriously. Progressives need to seize the levers of power within the Democratic Party and stop doing stupid bullshit like going to the Green Party, at least in the United States, and acknowledge that this is a two-party system, and you either need to be working to change the Constitution or you need to work within one of the two parties to actually get anything done. And you can argue till the cow comes home or till the cows come home, but the fact of the matter is math speaks for itself. And if you need to understand how math works, then I'm not going to take the time to explain it. But from a mathematical standpoint, there will always be two major parties in this country unless we change the Constitution. And I'm all for changing the Constitution. I'm chomping at the bit to do a podcast series on how we can have a better Constitution. But in the interest of actually trying to get something done, I'm going to focus on first doing what I can to help with this election. Because if we don't win this election, if you stay home, or you vote Green, or you vote Libertarian, or God help us all if you vote Republican, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because there may never be another free election again if we don't get the Democrats, as incompetent as they can be, and often are, if we don't get the Democrats in power, then we're going to lose everything. And you can quote me on that. And more importantly, you should, in my opinion, basically just stop talking with politics or engaging in political discussions with people who promote lies or who promote these narratives like both sides are the same, because both sides are not the same. And it's time we acknowledge that.
This has been the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast.
Buy my friend's book, Shadow Path by William Maxwell, available on Amazon.com.
Copyright
For this podcast,
2018. Red Anvil Amalgamated, LLC.
to fight the forces of evil!